Okay. All right, it is 7:15. We're going to call the council meeting to order. First thing we'll do is our flag salute. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. First is our roll call.
Okay, Ms. Bollenbacher?
Here.
Mr. Chandler? Here. Ms. Compatello?
Here.
Mr. Marks? Here. Mr. Oliverio?
Here.
Ms. Polkownik?
Here.
Mr. Radia? Here. Mayor Perry?
Here.
Solicitor Corbel?
Here.
Engineering Minsterman?
Here.
And that will be all. Thank you.
Okay, great. The consent agenda. So on the OneDrive were the minutes from January 26th and also the bill list from February 9th. Need a motion to approve the February 9th, 2023 consent agenda.
So moved.
Mr.
Second.
Chandler, Ms. Compatello, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Consent agenda passes. At this time, citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue appearing on today's agenda. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Crafton will be permitted to address the council. Comments on non-agenda items will be taken at the end of tonight's meeting. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before the council, who may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Please state your name and physical address for the record. Do we have anybody on the sign-in sheet and/or Zoom? You can raise your hand. Okay, Andrea Marquis, is it something for now or at the end? At the end? Oh, okay, great. Anybody on Zoom, please raise your hand. Okay, that's good. Okay, President's report. Tonight I don't have anything to report. Mayor's report.
So this evening, I just want to make mention of the passing of Tom Pellegrino, who passed away last night. He had been a longtime supporter of the borough and was on council from 2010 to 2011. He was the husband of Susan O'Connell, who had served as mayor before Mayor Bloom, 2006 to 2009, and she also served on council. So just wanted to make mention of that. Arrangements will be forthcoming in the next couple of days. On a somewhat lighter note, the police department's been in a bit of an upheaval this week as Public Works and our carpeting vendor have been working diligently to do some upgrades down there, and they've got some lovely new carpeting and soon to have some new paint and some other things to spruce up that 1950s look that we've had for so long. That's it for my report.
Okay, thank you. All right. Engineers report, Mr. Minsterman.
Yeah, nothing to add to the report submitted.
Okay, great. Okay. Solicitors report.
The only thing to announce this evening is we'll be holding an executive session following the meeting to discuss personnel and real estate matters. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Managers report, Mr. Price.
Thank you. First, I want to bring up for a vote the EMS contract. We have to approve it. It's an amended contract. This was already an approved contract. We just made a minor amendment since the Northwest EMS is no longer using our garage to house. So we need to call for a vote to approve this new contract. Can I get a motion?
I'll go ahead and do it. A motion to approve the amended EMS contract.
Mr. Marks, anybody second? Okay, Ms. Bollenbacher, any discussion?
Can we just clarify where our where the equipment is being stored currently?
It is now in at Ingram's office at their, where they had garages at their borough building.
They're content with that setup, there's space and there's agreement for them to continue using that.
As far as I know, yes.
We don't use Northwest EMS, correct? But this is, I thought they were renting space from us and then they moved it to.
Yeah, they are our service and they are now, they were using our space for free and now they're using their space for free.
Right.
And I think it was a better living quarters for them, so they decided to use that as
Right.
opposed to ours.
Right.
I know we discussed this before and it was all, that was what was working for them. It's just as nice to clarify why we're making the change as we make the change.
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Right, motion passes.
Okay, continuing with my report, I am pleased to announce that Crafton was just announced to be a 2023 Banner Community, which is a program that is done by the Allegheny League of Municipalities, recognizing the community for a number of different issues, a number of training classes and transparency and a number of things. There's an entire checklist of things that they ask the municipality to go through and indicate that they've done. And after going through that process, the borough was awarded that. Before my time, I can't take any credit for it, but thank you to the council and to all the staff and team who has got us awarded to be a 2023 Banner Community. And then continuing on, I want to make a couple notes, just of some updates of things that we've done. I think you'll notice there's a new thermostat on the wall there. So we can program this so we can save energy costs in here. We have a new programmable one in the next door so that we were leaving this all at a regular temperature. So we're going to be lowering that during the day when no one's using it so that we can save money. We've also now eliminated all plastic bottles. We're now using glass here. So we're not using as many single-use plastics in this room. And I also want to another thing that we've done over the last week or last couple of weeks since I started, we now have a centralized list of service calls. So when if you're put a service call in on the website, it is also going to go into a system where we're all watching all of them. So anytime you call or write or email, we're going to have that all collected. Over the last 2 weeks, we've had 18 calls. I don't think I'm catching everyone that's gone into the system yet. So we're working on that to improve that. And it can be anything from, we've had calls on potholes and snow removal and utility poles that we've all addressed. So we're really tracking that to make sure that that is dealt with as quickly as possible. We also received a very nice call from the Shaw's beer distributor, commending the public works staff for their work in plowing streets and keeping their sidewalks clean or keeping it clean around their building or around their area. And another thing that we've had Public Works do over the last couple of weeks, we've had a big issue or a relatively big issue with not being able to get a hold of when there's downed wires. If we can't get a hold of Verizon or Comcast or the other companies to remove those, we just went ahead and removed them. And they removed 31 hanging wires in the last couple of weeks to make sure that those are not just being left when we don't hear back from the other companies. And then we are also applying for an LGA intern. So we hope to be getting the help of LGA, and there's a nice benefit with that of some match money. So we'll be looking forward to that as well and hope we get that. But that's my report as of now.
Great, thank you. Standing committee reports. Finance and Administration, Ms. Perry.
Yes, so the Finance Committee met last week and reviewed the 2022 budget, the actuals to our budget. The good news is that we had some things that were below our targets and some that were above. And when all was said and done, the difference is about $60,000 difference from the entire budget, which is remarkable. The manager and our consultants are working on some cosmetic things for the budget, and then we'll be working on an executive summary, and then that will be available both to council and to the public. Let's see, we have anything, we have something else here. Oh, we're gonna just turn the Verizon bill update to our manager.
Yes, so we found a bill that we were being charged for old radio equipment that has probably been happening for quite a while. That's potentially will be saving us about $5,000 a year. I'm still waiting to hear back from the county, so there's no resolution on that yet.
And that's it for this committee.
All right. I do want to commend the Finance Committee for the very sound financial management. It was to come that close to a balance, which is the budget is always zero or typically zero, is extremely well managed. And that goes to the administration and all of council here for managing a budget like that. So it's extremely commendable, and the fiscal responsibility and looking at where we are on a monthly basis and making sure that we align with where our budget is very important. And I do want to commend that committee for it.
Thank you for me and our members.
Yeah, sure. Right, community services and infrastructure, Ms. Compatello.
Sure. Our first item is the multi-municipal zoning project update. We do continue to be in a roughly year-long process of updating our zoning. It's being done jointly along with Ingram Borough. The consultant that we have working with the two boroughs, we're doing a joint process, but each borough will have their own unique zoning update. They are in their second of 3 segments of their contract right now. They did submit to myself and to the borough manager the updated draft map of the zoning districts, as well as some descriptions of what those updates will be. That's also been circulated to the steering committee. We'll be meeting soon, and then they will be attending the next planning commission meeting, which is an open meeting if anyone would like to participate. They'll be doing an overview of that draft zoning map, the changes that are being recommended and why. That next planning commission meeting will be February 28th. They are at 6:30. They are always advertised on the borough website. They'll be going through reviews with the steering committee and with the borough manager and making some adjustments to that over the next month or so, and then formalizing what their next round of engagement will be. So there will be additional community engagement and events planned, and those are anticipated in roughly the April timeframe. So we should have more details and be able to start advertising specifics in March. I think the only other item to perhaps mention is the official point of contact, now that we have a new borough manager, has been designated as our new borough manager. Next item is to ask council to direct the manager to seek approval for the borough to use the land on which the Creekside Trail exists. To give some context to this, this has been a longstanding discussion with the Planning Commission and was a request made at the last Planning Commission meeting. It builds directly on efforts that were done last year to do the Parks Master Plan and echoes requests that have been made by community members as well. Essentially, we have a lot of people who like to walk along the Creekside Trail. We do not actually own that land. There has been an informal agreement that people are able to use it and walk on it, but we have a desire now expressed not only through last year's Parks Plan, but at the last Planning Commission meeting to seek documented written approval from the owners of that land, which is the U.S. Army Corps, to have in documented writing that the borough and the borough residents have permission to walk on that trail. So I think our understanding is that we do not need a formal resolution of any sort, but the council can simply direct the borough manager to contact the owners of the property and seek written approval unless there's any opposition to that.
Any questions or discussions?
I think we can state that permission is given and our borough manager will follow up on that. And then the third item on the agenda is the Master Parks Plan resolution. This one has been mentioned over the past few months and has been advertised that this would be on our agenda. The borough completed a Master Parks Plan last year. It was finished in roughly March of 2022. And it was submitted to DCNR, to a state agency for their review. Usually takes a few months. They've been busy. It took them almost a year. But they have formally approved it. The master parks plan that was finished for Crafton Borough last March has been formally approved by the state. And so that means it comes back to council for us to formally adopt. So we are, this is a comprehensive document that addresses our parks and recreation sites, which will guide our future planning efforts. So with that, I would like to make a motion to adopt resolution 2023-003, adopting the Crafton Master Site Development Plan.
Second.
So Ms. Compitello, second is Mr. Marks. Any discussion? I think an important thing is there's a lot of recommendations within that plan for a lot of improvements, changes, everything. And it's clear that we don't have to do, it's a recommendation.
Yes, it is a plan which gives us a framework to build on as we go and seek funding sources. We have a better position when we can point to a community-backed document that shows interest and details how all of these things will be done. When we submitted it to the state last March, we also submitted a grant application for one of the projects at Linwood Park, improvements to Linwood Park. That came out of that planning process, and we were awarded that grant. So we do have some grant funding already that was inspired by that plan. And now that it's been formally approved by the state, this council can formally adopt it, and it can continue to be a guiding document that will help us position for additional future funding opportunities over the next roughly 10 years.
Sorry.
So just to clarify, we're not tied into anything in this plan. It's just a guiding document.
There's no requirement that we take any plan document further, but we can.
Thank you.
Build upon any part of it, all of it, pieces of it. It is a guide. It is a guiding document.
And it's necessary so that we can apply for grants. They're not going to give us grant money if we don't have a plan.
And that's where the Linwood and Noble Parks, if you remember the discussion last year, we went through great detail, but all those requirements and changes all came from that plan. We've talked about the trails and the walkways. That's all in there. Other improvements for the future. So what's nice about it is that we can always reference that back as we look at grants. And there are a lot of grants coming down the pike that we can look at and already have the work done. Yeah, Mr. Mitchell.
Just wanted to add that the next cycle for the DCNR grant, the C2P2 grant, is due in, I think, early April. So if council's considering implementing any of the ideas in the plan, now's the time.
Mm-hmm. Any further discussion? Oh,
Sorry, one last question. Any updates and changes to this plan? Would we need to post the ordinance again, or?
There's no ordinance required for this. It's a resolution. There were a few minor changes that I believe our engineer can speak to. There were some grammatical changes, but no content was changed.
But in the future, say we were to change our plans, would we have to re-vote on this ordinance or this resolution, or?
I suppose that could be an outcome, but I don't see any reason why we would update it without undertaking another planning process. If we decide, for example, that we want to pursue one project or not another, we're under no obligation to update our plan.
So I think if it's like, if we took Crafton Park and we wanted to do something else there than what's in the plan, we can certainly do that, right? We don't have to go by exactly what the plan is. It's more of a recommendation.
It's kind of a snapshot in time of what our wish list is and what the community members want and what that may entail. And it gives us building blocks to build upon as we go after grants, but we're under no obligation to follow it to the letter or to update item by item as we check things off or decide not to.
Thank you.
And I believe the stairs were also in there. That's another area that was.
No, that's
Stairs were
not,
not in there.
that's
The
not part of it.
master park site plan focused solely on properties that we own as park properties.
I saw. Yes.
So
I was gonna add that the trail planning grant is another one that that grant is ready to go if you want to submit that in this next round. The last round that was submitted in the fall was an extremely tight grant offering. There were only 2 grants allocated in Allegheny County. One was for the Allegheny Land Trust and one was for Allegheny County Parks. So that one didn't fund too many projects, but so the spring round, which I just mentioned, will have better opportunity for success. So that trail grant is ready to go. We've already got calls into the grant agency on how to improve it. So if you're wanting to do that, that can be easily submitted.
hey, may I just make another point of clarification that any project that the council may decide to undertake would come in front of council, and council will have an opportunity to weigh in and shape and approve any financial expenditures.
Oh, yeah.
And
Just
to
wanted to
be-
make it clear that just because it's in the plan doesn't mean that the council isn't going to have a chance to review it. Should one of those plans filter up to be acted on?
And since the trails grant was brought up, I'll just clarify, I would expect that we'll have that on an upcoming council agenda. It's not on this council agenda, but we will be meeting with the engineer as we do on a monthly basis next week. And I would imagine we would be talking about that next round of grants and putting that on the agenda for the next 1 or 2 council meetings. I know there's been enormous interest and support for trail expansion.
I think that's the interesting thing is that a lot of the projects that we had over this past year were projects that were approved by prior councils, in the prior years. So the things that we've been working on, they've gone through the whole process. And now the things we work on as a council are things that we'll see, but we would never jump into a project that has not come through council. Any other comments? Good questions and discussions. So we'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
All right, I'd like to add one more comment, which is really a question for our borough manager. It has passed. Can we ensure that that parks plan is available on the borough website?
I will do that. Thank you.
All right. Community recreation and community events. Recreation and community events, Ms. Bollenbacher.
All right, the first part was the upcoming community events. We do have a neighborhood cleanup day that we are going to do in conjunction with Shade Trees Arbor Day celebration. So the Arbor Tree celebration will be on Friday, April 28th. And then the cleanup day will be that Saturday, April 29th. Part of that cleanup day will include a shredder event, as well as multiple dumpsters will be available to dispose of large items. That's pretty much that. The next one is the pool. So for this upcoming pool season, the pool again will be open like last year. It'll be open on Memorial Day weekend and will be open through Labor Day weekend. Applications are now being accepted for all positions. You can just go to the borough website. What else do we have on that? We are looking into, and hopefully we'll have a new registration system in place this year. We are looking at a couple different options. We're trying to get away from the paper applications. We're trying to go into the 21st century and electronic. So we have a couple ones that our our borough manager is looking into. So fingers crossed on that. And the costs this year for the passes and such are going to be the same prices as last year. So I don't believe we're going to adjust those at all.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm all on board with moving things into digital, but will there continue to be a paper option for those that need it?
Go ahead.
Yeah, they will, people will be able to come either and we haven't worked out the final details yet, but if we're going with the system that we're most likely going to go with, you'll be able to come to the office and fill out a form and fill out the form yourself, or have someone work with you to fill it out, or they can do it at the down at the pool itself.
Next item is the newsletter. Carissima did send out the email this week requesting for articles for our next newsletter. She does ask that those be sent back to her no later than February 27th. And I believe she also asked that each article be between 200 and 400 words, if I remember correctly. We're trying to keep things a little abbreviated to make it a little bit easier to get everybody in those into the letter who wants to be in the letter. So we are hoping to have them hit the mailboxes by the end of March. That's the plan. My final agenda piece is the digital sign. The Rotary Club has been given the okay to order our new digital sign, and I'd like to thank them again for their generous contribution towards that sign. You can see on our tables here, we do have a layout with some information about the sign itself and a general idea of what it should potentially look like in its placement. My understanding that we did agree that that was going to be the placement.
Well, that is something that we should get.
Yeah.
And I realize I'm not hitting my mic, so I was not telling anybody else that. But yeah, we do have an engineering study that confirms that that is a safe location for a sign such as that. And we just need council to approve that that is the location they want to place that sign.
Okay, so we can bring that vote now. Okay, then.
I believe the sign was already approved for placement, but the location was, I think that was determined way back and at other council meetings in the prior. So it's basically the discussion right now for council, but it's not to approve the locate. I guess we would need a motion to approve the location.
Yeah, it'd be best to get a motion to approve the location.
Okay.
So then if we're looking for a motion that's not on the agenda, solicitor, do we not need a motion to put it on and then open it for?
No, the
discussion?
agenda item was on, there's an
Okay.
agenda item on this topic on the
Okay.
agenda, so we're okay.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, we have it, unfortunately. I don't think it's up there.
So for those of you who don't have a copy, it's going to be at the entrance of the Crafton Park.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think the engineer did a study on the location. That was about a year or even more ago. I don't know if you can speak to that.
The study was mainly just from a safety perspective, that it had enough clearances and distances for sight and wasn't obstructing any traffic. So that the location came from either the staff or the council. It was evaluated and deemed to be appropriate by the engineer.
I think the rec committee, the recreation committee, when we talked about it last year, had kind of just talked through different placements, and we thought it would be best over on the side that's at least being proposed on that plan.
The other thing that we might want to point out is that the other side is not ours in perpetuity. So there would always be the danger of the school board asking for the property back in some way, and we'd have to move the sign.
Well, if we're no longer using it for a borough use, it would revert back. But the school district has an ability under the deed of dedication to request it back at any time for school purposes. And that's what the mayor is referring to. So whether we put a sign there or not, the school district could request that property be returned to them tomorrow, and then we would have to abandon the sign or remove it and transfer it to the other side of the street or another location. So that's the risk of putting it where the golf course location is now.
When we looked at the design of this last year, I believe we talked about the level of intensity of the light and the lowering of that intensity after certain hours at night. Can we revisit that and just clarify what those lighting standards were going to be? I believe we did talk about that, right? It will have a lower light level at when it gets after dark.
And we do have in our ordinance, in our sign ordinance, that it specifically has to be lower than the ambient light that surrounds it. So if there's if it's brighter than the street lights or anything around it, then it would not be allowed. So yes, we'll make sure that follows that guidance.
And that was the concern because there is a duplex next door to it. Also, it has Crafton Park on the top of the sign, which Crafton Park is on the right-hand side of the street there. And there is another sign already across right in front of the putt-putt. It's a manual sign that's flipped out. But I think after some discussions and the recommendations of saying this, there was also 2 big trees there prior. Right, and you can see it in the diagram here that were taken out. They were hit by a storm and they were taken out late last year. So this location now is a very wide open location.
So are we voting on something tonight? I guess that's where I'm still confused. Are we trying to vote on something, and what are we voting on?
Yeah. So the next steps are for the sign. I'll say it, but it might not be 100% right if you don't want to say it.
Yeah, we should just get a motion and approval of the position of the location of the sign based on those drawings, if we're still agreeing on that.
As a reminder too, the sign will be made up of bricks from Crafton, from the Crafton streets that have been taken out years prior. So the bricks as part of the makeup of the sign will be from Crafton road bricks in the past.
So, I mean, do we have this plan posted somewhere where folks who may want to give input could?
Not now, but I can definitely make sure that gets there. Yep.
I said,
Put it up.
It's just one of those things where I guess my hesitance on wanting to vote on this tonight is that we obviously have folks in the community that would like to give their input, but didn't even realize we were going to talk about sign positioning tonight. So, I mean, unless we're in a rush for a deadline.
I'm fine with waiting for a week till the next meeting. I don't see a problem with that at all.
I agree. I'm a little concerned how close this is to that residential property. If I lived there, I probably would not be thrilled. So
I would also like to ask if we looked at other locations, if there's a reason why this is the best location, or, I mean, it is located, if you're driving that way, by the time you see that sign, it's after you have any chance to turn in or out of the park. Were there other locations looked at
Yeah, I
to
think,
locate it perhaps more centrally? Or
yeah, I think last year when we talked through positioning, right, we talked through putting it kind of in the dip there in between the entry and the exit, right? And we had figured that we could, like, that's a catch basin or something, right? There's something.
Rain garden.
That's the rain garden.
Rain garden, and we couldn't put it there. We would have to, flatten it out and get it ready. It'd cost a lot more. And then again, we had, multiple concerns about moving it to the other side of the road. Yeah, so I think that just this general area was kind of where we landed, but it's, again, I'm trying to scrape some rust off of my, from my brain, remembering exactly what we talked about, because it's probably been 12 months since we last actually talked through the details.
Right. And what this was a grant from, I believe, 2021. So this has been in discussions, and then the money's finally released. And then the location, you can see this drawing was done in April of 2022. So it's been ongoing for quite some time. And, you know, we talked about the design, about the bricks. All of those things were part of those discussions. And having something that's better, because right now, one of our residents flips the sign in front of the putt putt. So that's one of our residents who goes out there with all the letters and flips the sign when she has an opportunity.
This one you can do straight from your phone.
Right.
So makes it a little bit easier.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I just checked my email and the contractors would like to have official order by March 15th. So we do have time if we wanted to bring it to another meeting.
So does council feel like we can put maybe a motion on the agenda for the next meeting, which allows the public, with all these documents, which allows the public to take a view, come with comments, and then we can have our discussion and everything for the next meeting?
Can we also have, whether it's tonight, since the engineer's here, or next time, I'm not sure how much was looked at, of just an overview of what the opportunities for different locations were or are, if they're, you know, if all other locations were ruled out for cause, we just have a description of that, or if there are opportunities to look at other locations, perhaps we could just have a chance to go through that before we finalize.
Yep, I agree with that.
I think that was focused on the rec committee. So all the engineer did was evaluate the selected location for a safety and traffic compliant. So I'm guessing if you go back into your notes, you know, it's hard to ask you what you said a year ago, but there might be something there.
Okay.
So if we are interested in knowing whether other locations might work, what is the best way forward? Should we just all go out and do a visual tour? Should we ask the engineer to take a look at whether there are other locations available? Should we wait until what we decide at our next meeting as to what we want to do? Because it sounds like this location was selected because it made sense to the rec committee, which is very valid. But does that mean if we'd like to look at other locations, what's our best way forward to assess whether there are options?
They would have to be on Crafton property. So like the other locations around that, and I mean, you could always put it near the Borough building, but the visibility, of course, is going to be the best on Steuben Street.
Well, and also, it also says Crafton Park on the top
Right,
of the sign,
right.
so it's gonna seem silly if it's in front of the Borough building and.
But I
says
mean,
Crafton Park.
That's a long property in front of Crafton Park. If we could definitively rule out that nowhere else along that frontage of Crafton Park worked, I think that would help us make a decision. But if there are potentially other locations along the frontage of Crafton Park that don't push it so close to the end of Crafton Park, can we look at that?
I think there's the rain garden there in the middle. So that eliminates that whole section. So it's really at the entrance to the park, or it's on this side, or within the park itself.
Is that your expert opinion?
I'm not an expert, but I know that was part of our discussion at the meeting.
So if we have questions from council or from residents at our next meeting, do we have enough to definitively say that we looked at all options and this is the only option? That's my question.
Like I said, we have till next meeting, or that's what people have thrown out, is for next meeting, to put it on the agenda so that people can take a look at it and ask any questions.
Quick question about this drawing with the potential sign installation area. It's a pretty large area. I would feel much more comfortable if it was more towards the exit versus towards the residential property. So where exactly would this fall in that area? Do we know, or?
Yeah, I'm fairly confident that anywhere in that area is deemed to be safe from a traffic study perspective. So it could be slid anywhere up and down that is, you know, as far as the limitations of this study is concerned, yes, you could slide it all the way up and down that set that grid that's there.
Okay. Like I said, I'd feel much more comfortable if it was furthest towards the exit away from the residential property.
As far as like other placement, like along Steuben on that same side, again, with the rain garden there, and then like there's really on the opposite side of the entrance, there's no room. So I mean, I think just we took a quick glance and went, oh, this makes no sense. Like then that's probably about the level of evaluation we did, because we didn't want to touch the rain garden. And there really was no other room on that side of the road, so. Yeah, it sounds like we have probably more to talk about next meeting, so.
Right, so it sounds like for the next meeting, we can put it on the agenda. It has been on the agenda actually for the majority of last year. It was on there where it's been up for discussion or saying that we have the money and we're looking at different locations and here's the style. Put it on the agenda for the next meeting, and this would be regarding the location of the sign and having a little bit more information. There's also, as you can see, the green sign there, the Carlington sign. So finding out, what's the history of that sign? And you can see where the two trees were, I think, or at least one of the trees on the picture here.
That was my last agenda item. I'm done.
Okay, great, thank you. Commission vacancy, Mr. Chandler.
Yes, so we have some open positions still. We are looking to fill a one opening on the Civil Service Commission into alternates as well. We have 2 library board openings and a zoning hearing board and an alternate position as well for that. And upcoming, we will have in March, at the end of March, we will have a Shade Tree Commission position open, Planning Commission position open, and 3 rec board seats open at the end of December of this year. And as always, if anybody is interested or anybody knows anybody interested, please apply at craftonborough.com/commissions.
All right. Council of Governments, Ms. Bollenbacher.
Nothing to report except the next meeting is next Thursday, February 16th at 6:30 at the Kennedy Township Fire Hall.
Okay. Community announcements. Our next meeting is Thursday, February 23rd at 7:15. As Ms. Mollenbacher had said, we have 2023 summer employment. The Borough of Crafton is accepting applications for the following seasonal positions: the pool manager, assistant pool manager, concession manager, head lifeguard, lifeguards, cashiers, attendants, concession stand workers, and seasonal public works. Paper applications may be obtained in the administrative office on the 2nd floor during normal business hours, 9 to 4, Monday through Friday, or on the Crafton Borough website. I believe it's right on the front page of the website. All paper and online applications must be submitted to the administrative office by 4 o'clock Wednesday, March 15th. So that's just about a month from now for our summer. So it's important to get those in. At our March 9th meeting at 6:15, this is before the council meeting, we will have a public hearing for the club liquor license intermunicipal transfer. So there will be a hearing during that prior to that meeting. Okay. Any additional comments or questions, council? At this time, citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Crafton will be permitted to address the council. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before the council, who may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Please state your name and physical address for the record. So we have somebody here, and then after this person, anybody on Zoom or anybody else that would like to speak can raise their hand. Andrea Markey. It's okay.
Representing the Crafton Library Board. I've been on the Board of Trustees for, I guess, about 2 years. And I guess speaking to the borough designates or the borough appointees, Carrie Woodard has moved out of the borough. Out of our 6 members that we have, I live in the borough and also Daniel McKay lives in the borough. So I don't know if it would make sense for us to fill those 2 borough vacancies, or if you guys have thought about opening that up to non-residents. The library board itself doesn't have a residency requirement to be on the Board of Trustees. And I think I'm 2 years into my 3-year current term, and Dan is probably a little less than that. So, but anyway, we had decided and in talking with different council members that we would try to attend some of the council meetings. Some of you guys have come to some of our meetings, so here I am. Hi. But maybe we could talk about that offline, see what makes sense. Okay, cool. Thanks. Any questions for me?
No,
Okay. Thanks.
thank you.
I do just want to tell you, you should have been here last week. I went to the COG meeting and they sang your praises about the library. So just thought you wanted to know that.
All right. Anybody online? Anybody in the audience? Last week? Okay. Anybody from council have any questions or comments? All right, meeting adjourned at 8:01. Thanks, everyone. We do have an